Hello, everyone. A lot of the news sources today are covering Ukraine's President Zelensky's suggestion to accept the unoccupied portion of Ukraine into the NATO now. So, what does that mean? As a lot of people probably know, the way NATO works is if one of the NATO members is invaded, assaulted, in any way harassed, other NATO members throw their full force behind them. Okay? So, what he's suggesting is, yeah, sure, let's freeze the borders where they are, but let's take in Ukraine into the organization, into the alliance, and extend that offer to the entire Ukraine as it stood before the annexation of Crimea. So what that means is what he wants to happen is to have NATO support to stop Russian advances where they are. And then, again, use NATO pressure to get back the invaded territories. Now, that top portion there is very important. It is not likely that NATO would consider this, and I will explain why. And I don't think it's what everybody thinks it is. The reason is not what everybody thinks it is. First of all, it is true that it's a major concession for Zelensky, because one of Putin's demands was to freeze the borders where they are. So he gets to keep, for now, the invaded territories. But the second half of the proposal is not at all what Putin wants, because he demanded that any consideration of Ukraine as a NATO member should be postponed by 20 years. So, what about NATO? Well, some people are going to say NATO is not going to want to get involved because it's going to demand action on their part. It's going to put NATO members at risk. It's going to put NATO citizens at risk, citizens of the countries that are NATO members. And that all is true. But I think the main reason why NATO is unlikely to consider this proposal is because it hadn't yet sunk in fully how risky it is to have Russia as their next door neighbor. The Soviet Union had dissolved in 1991, so it's been a minute. A lot of people around today weren't even born back then. So I think people have forgotten the strain of the Cold War and what that did to the resources of various countries, including NATO, to the political situation in the world, to the economic situation in the world, etc., etc. I don't think NATO and its members fully understand what it's like to risk having Russia as their next door neighbor in the case of the fall of Ukraine. And that is what's going to happen, not to mention the newly emboldened China, Iran, and North Korea. It's true that, a lot of the world political experts are acknowledging that it is a major concession for Zelensky. And there's going to be a lot of very unhappy people around Ukraine, those who are living in the invaded areas and those who have loved ones in the invaded areas. Meanwhile, Ukraine is also trying to court the Latin American countries to provide aid to them. Again, he needs to do better when he explains the risks to them, because they're all the way over there across the ocean. Why should they care? So Zelensky needs to have economic experts on hand with him, political experts on hand with him, people who understand global situation to explain to the countries of Latin America why the war in Ukraine should matter to them. Because if he's just going to say, please help me, it's not going to do a damn thing. I appreciate Sir Tony Brenton's statement saying that Zelensky is playing a sophisticated game. I don't know about that, bud. I really don't. Because of all of the stupid things Zelensky had said and done in the past, even though he did do a lot of growing up since the war began, I'm wondering whether it is a sophisticated game or whether he is trying everything and some of it looks really, really smart just by virtue of the number of things he's trying. I honestly don't know. I have doubts. Ukraine's security charged Russian Colonel General Yevgeny Nikiforov in absentia for ordering a missile strike on a theater in Chernihiv. That took place back in August of 2023, and 200 people were wounded. This is not the first such case. So far, Ukraine has charged 730 people and convicted 137 in absentia for committing war crimes. And again, you know, in order to actually bring this about, we need international pressure on Russia to extradite those people. They're not going to do a damn thing unless there's something tangible hanging over their heads. This is true. This is happening. Now, it's happening in Russia as well. But remember, we talked about this thing yesterday. The drastic difference in the population size. And no, I'm not happy about that because my family personally has 3 people out there. We have a soldier and a medic in the Donetsk-Luhansk region, and we have another soldier in the Kharkiv region. So, yeah, the fact that they've been out there for over 2 years, the army medic is a woman, and she hadn't seen her children for more than, like, I think 4 or 5 weeks this entire time. Yeah, no, I'm not happy about the desertions, but they are happening and they have to be acknowledged, and the effect thereof has to be acknowledged. This was surprising. What happened, Al Jazeera? What happened, UN? Is it Tell the Truth Day for you? Let me explain. I stopped using Al Jazeera sources and UN sources because of their ongoing bias toward not upsetting Russia. So the fact that they published this, which is true, is a little bit weird to me. I'm kind of waiting for a speedy withdrawal of this article. But it's there for now. And yes, it's true. And we know Russia has violated numerous conventions regarding the treatment of POWs. Meanwhile, in Russia, let this sink in, America. Let this sink in. They raided multiple bars and arrested the director of a gay travel agency under a law criminalizing LGBTQ propaganda. Let this sink in, Americans. Consider the results of the election and think. Institute of the Study of War has a set of updated maps. It's not all terrible, but it's not good. So, there's an update on the situation in Kursk, and as you can see, even though Russian troops have retaken some territory, as I said before, Ukraine has never intended to hold on to it. They just wanted to see what they could do and for how long, and they're still there. Here's the Kharkiv region. Here's the part that makes me really nervous and worried about the safety of my parents. This is Zaporizhia region. Very close to home. And I want to conclude with this. The cover of Time magazine. Take it all in, guys. Take it all in. More to come.